Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a time to remember the 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust and the millions of other victims of Nazi persecution. On this day, 80 years ago, the Nazi concentration camp of Auschwitz-Birkenau was liberated. Among the prisoners that survived the horrors of the Holocaust is 94-year-old Oskar Jakob. He survived the war and 3 concentration camps as a slave laborer forced to build parts for Hitler's V-1 flying bomb. While this is a story of survival, it's also about an unlikely friendship with an American who uncovered a troubling family secret. Natalie Morales met them in St. Louis, and we should warn you, the story contains images that are very difficult to watch.
On a winter's day in St. Louis, Holocaust survivor Oskar Jakob enjoys life's simple pleasures.
I did it.
It's a far cry from his youth in Romania, where in 1944, Jews were rounded up and sent to Auschwitz. 13 at the time, Oskar survived by claiming to be older. He was put to work while 41 family members were put to death.
And I wanted to say goodbye to my mom and never had a chance. They would be killing about 500 people at a time. And if the crematorium was overcrowded, that they couldn't burn the bodies that fast, they would burn the bodies on the outside.
How afraid were you every day?
I was afraid because they would just take the rifle butt and they just hit you as hard they could.
Months later, he was forced to travel without food or water to the Nazi camp Mittelbau-Dora. There, prisoners toiled in underground tunnels, building the V-1 flying bomb, Hitler's vengeance weapon.
The conditions in the tunnel was horrible. Prisoners, they just couldn't continue working so many hours and so hungry and thirsty. So they would take a pause without permission. But they grabbed these prisoners and they hung them in the tunnel. The rest of us were forced to punch the dead bodies that they were hanging.
It sounded like a tank in the sky, and it exploded with deadly results on London.
The V-1 was the world's first cruise missile designed to terrorize and kill civilians.
6,000 people dead, 17,000 injured.
Fast forward to 2013, and a world away, Gayle Rico was dying of cancer and stunned her daughters with a final request to finish her memoir. Suzanne Rico only knew her mom grew up in Germany during World War II. This image of her grandfather hung in Rico's childhood home.
We would say, "Mom, tell us about our grandfather," and she would say, "He was a genius," and that was it.
But in her mom's photos and films, Rico uncovered a family secret. Robert Lusser, her grandfather, was the Nazi engineer behind Hitler's V-1.
Das ist V1 im Einsatz.
You can't fool yourself about what it was used for. It was a killing machine.
A former local anchor for CBS News, Rico was used to asking tough questions. So she confronted her Nazi ancestry in a podcast, The Man Who Calculated Death.
What amends can you make when you can't go back and change history?
She and her sister traveled to Germany and walked the tunnels of Dora.
You know, you can feel the souls of the dead, the damage, death and destruction. All of that went so much deeper. And it became really clear to me that I needed to talk to somebody who was there.
A Holocaust survivor group connected her with Oskar, who agreed to a meeting.
Oskar, how did you feel when you first heard from Suzanne that she was the granddaughter of the man who created this weapon of mass destruction?
Well, be honest with you, I was very skeptical. I didn't know if I can trust her.
And my hands were shaking. Was it going to be somebody who was angry, who blamed me? Rightfully so.
But Oskar welcomed her into his home, and an unexpected friendship has grown.
What
was it that she said to you?
She said, "I'm sorry." And no German never said to me, "I'm sorry what happened to you and your family." And to me, that meant a lot. And God bless her for that.
We joined Oskar and his family as they visited the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, where Oskar's story is among the survivors.
See, that's exactly how I looked, like a skeleton.
Oh my God.
4 years after the war, he recalls sailing into New York Harbor.
We were dancing and laughing and joking, and we just couldn't take our eyes off that we're in America.
He met Margot, his wife of 67 years, and together they raised 4 boys while he worked as a plumber. His free time was spent at a nearby farm where the animals helped him cope with recurring nightmares.
Every time I speak about it, including I speak to you right now, it is not easy.
Rico is turning her podcast into a documentary. She hopes her story and their unlikely bond will inspire others to stand up against growing anti-Semitism.
America for the white man!
Last October, on an overpass just 3 miles from Oskar's home, masked men displayed Nazi symbols.
On a daily basis, I cannot forget. It comes back over and over again.
Now, at 94, with 8 grandchildren, his message of never forget is sure to live on.
And as painful as Oskar's story is for him to relive, he says it's important that we keep talking about the Holocaust so that we will never forget. And he is such an inspiration. At 94 years old, if you can believe this, he still enjoys playing golf. Now, meantime, Suzanne Rico plans to turn her podcast, The Man Who Calculated Death, it is out now. She's going to turn that into a documentary. Vlad?
Natalie, as you say, now more than ever, remembering the past, but also confronting the past is incredibly important and necessary now more than ever. Natalie Morales for us. Thank you very much, Natalie.